Alright, yo. Okay, I'm putting this video together just to cover off some stuff that might help you. So make some notes because I'm sure you got questions. I don't have a lot of time because Karen's just taking the kids out for a walk. But I think one of the things that probably was frustrating was that he was getting killed a lot, and you're probably not killing a lot of people, and that's normally the balance of what's really frustrating. So I think rather than try and worry about how many people you're killing, I think the number one thing you should try and do is reduce your death ratio, because I think by doing this you'll play different and you'll start getting more kills. So I'm going to run over some stuff in the loadouts that I think is really good, and what's made the difference between putting something on and going all right, yeah, and not seeing anything, and the few things that have been like, okay, that makes a big difference. So you'll be able to focus on getting them. One thing to note is that even though everything unlocks by leveling up, the ones that level up at a higher level don't necessarily mean that they're better. A lot of the stuff I use is actually unlocked earlier. Um, the other thing from talking to you, so you have a Krieg that's kind of well up there, and you're on the SMG, so the MP5 SMG. I think they're not bad weapons just to concentrate on to work on your game. I wouldn't bother trying to flick between lots of weapons. Learn those weapons and how they work, and then tweak them, and then by doing that your game will improve. Because if you keep switching between different loadouts and testing everything, what you'll find is that you're not getting the best out of any one set, and every time you change your weapon, the way it plays is different. The major difference for me between running the MP5 and an assault rifle is the speed in which you move. With the MP5, it fires a lot faster as well, which gives you a lot more chance when you come up one-on-one with somebody. But even knowing that MP5, the movement speed is faster, it means you can get from one point to another. But then the next stage of that is you've got to kind of know the maps well enough to know where to move to either avoid being easy to kill, making it more difficult to kill, or finding places. So I'm in a custom lobby, so all the people on the right there are just computer bots at the minute, so just so I can explain things. I think that you're going to have to play what I like to think of as a sneaky bastard, and instead of like just walking the streets waiting to bump into someone, I think you're going to have to get to the point where when you're playing a map, you need to learn the maps where it's like high traffic areas. So what you need to think about is the maps are like a series of swimming lanes, and you've got to work out which lanes that there's going to be lots of busy people in, and the lanes that people only go in every now and then. And that seems silly, but if you can break it down to that, you'll find yourself doing a lot better, because you won't be getting lost, you won't be getting yourself ambushed or rushed. So that is definitely one way. And the other thing is, it feels when you're learning this stuff like there's a lot to do and it's fiddly, but when you actually just break it down to each part and get into the habit, it's not too bad. Like if you can drive a car, it's very similar in the sense that the minimap's really important, but when you check the minimap is also important. Like the amount of times that I was getting caught where I would be running and then I'd have a check of the minimap, and before you know it, someone's in front of you shooting and killing you. So you need to glance at the minimap at the right times as well. So that comes down to knowing the maps. So at the start, you know you're not going to clash with anyone for a certain amount of time, because you're both going to be moving within the map. So depending on where you move to in the map will depend on how quickly you need to be aware that you need to start checking the minimap to see if anyone's been killed, if there's any red dots on there. So even that in terms of when to look, like if you was driving, you wouldn't decide to start looking at your how much fuel and your speed while you're going around a really tight corner or trying to reverse park. So it's the same. It's the same thing, and that's how you need to work about it. Because if you try and think of doing everything at the same time, you're going to struggle with it. But I think if you play a bit slower, a bit sneakier, you'll do a lot better. So by that, I don't mean camping, because if you say camping, that's staying in one spot in a corner waiting for someone to run past, and there is an element of that. But this game, you have to be smarter in, and I think for the time being, rather than going how many kills did I get, you should be looking at how many deaths didn't I get, and I think that that will help. So just quickly, when I think I have because this is custom, so these are not my game setups, but I can talk through stuff. So SMG, really fast firing and it's fast movement. So like I still think that for me this is my best setup. You get flak jacket and tactical equipment, so just to cover them off. The flak jacket means I take less damage from explosives, molotovs, blah blah blah, and then this one is flashbang and stun. So when I'm running around the map, I have these two on, so already I can take more damage. That's effectively what that is. Gearhead, I think that this is really, really important in terms of how you choose to play. So this is what it means is you get the field upgrade. So if you've picked proximity mines or the radar blocker or the gas mines or whatever it is using, these come back really quickly. So why I think this is so good is purely because if you're playing and say like you're going to play sneakier, then you've got decisions to be made. Like I think gas mines are brilliant because you can block a doorway and normally they will give you a kill. If you're panicking, you can stick one down, so if two people charge you, you might even get two kills. They're really good, but that's with the way I play, and I would be moving, I'd be winning my 5 fights, I'd be holding places, I'd be moving. So if there was an element where it's a case of, right, I'm going to play a bit slower, I'm just going to get to an area, hold it for a certain amount of time, and then move, then maybe you'd be better with the trophy system. And what that does is that stops anyone being able to throw grenades at you. So rather than you trying to walk around and aim at the same time and worry about where people are coming from, if you go into a room where you know there's going to be traffic at some point, it means that you can get yourself in position, you can get your gun on target, and then you have the advantage in that gunfight. So there's much less for you to try and judge. What it'll come down to is you guessing which doorway they're going to come through, and that's going to be a gamble because you don't know. But if you listen for the footsteps and you're watching your mini map, it will give you an advantage. There's certain rooms that people come into more often, so you could be already pre-aiming at the door. So all this kind of waving the gun over the screen or trying to get on target, a lot of that will be reduced if you play a little bit slower and control the room. So like the radar is also good, the radar blocker. So if you've got this gearhead and you're running into the radar, it's going to keep coming back. So even when you move to another room or it gets blown up, it's going to pretty much be back by the time you can find another location. Stick that down and you're off the radar. Now the only thing with the radar, brilliant, but the way I play this is I have Ghost and Ninja on, so I'm undetectable by spy planes whenever I'm moving. For me, I'd be moving a lot. This may be not so good if you're staying in a room, but what I would say is when I say stay in a room, I don't mean not moving, because you can still move in the space, and it doesn't have to be a room, it can be an area. But if you're only kind of patrolling one small area of the map, you have a much better idea of guessing where people would be coming from. So that's where you've got to juggle these, because in previous Call of Duties, it's like there's just certain one of these you just turn on and that's the best. But you really do need to select which ones. Like Gung Ho is really good if you're running and gunning, because you can fire your weapon while sprinting. So even that alone will give you an advantage if you feel like the other person is always getting on target faster. The other perks there I don't use. Scavenger only replenishes ammo from falling, and with the SMG I find this is handy to have, because if I have done well, run out of ammo, I just run over a body and I can pick up ammo again. But if you wanted to rank up, this will highlight people that are on score streaks, and if you kill them you get more points, which means you can level up quicker. Quartermaster is, so like these would be your flash grenades and your frag grenades or whatever you use, that's these. So, and they will come back over 25 seconds if you've thrown them straight out. But the thing for me there is the amount of times that I last 25 seconds in a game without being killed is not that many. So for me, Gearhead is the best of the two. Scavenger's handy, but again I get killed so often that it's not that big of a deal. And then yeah, I love both of them. Now the other thing is then you do have to make your decision, and like again, it'll all come down to how you feel comfortable and how you're getting on playing. Like I think Perk Reed is great because you get the flak jacket, you get the tactical, ninja, ghost, and gearhead. So 5 of them I would say are very useful to my playstyle. But if you're finding that you're So yeah, so if you're finding that your gun is waving all over the screen, or you're finding it hard to control, and maybe if you're not moving around the map as much as I do, you wouldn't actually need those extra perks of the flak jacket and that, because you'd be in one room. It's not likely you're going to walk over a mine or a gas mine, and particularly if you're using the trophy system, which stops people throwing grenades, then you might not even need the flak jacket at all. So a lot of that is trial and error. I don't know until you've tried it, but that's the kind of things that if you're playing one way, you need to change some of these things because it will give you a much superior advantage. So there is an element in this that's a little bit like Division, that you have to have the right build for the right way that you're going to play. And there is good things. Like, I mean, the only thing, I was running this at the start, so I don't know if it's either outgrown it or I don't see the value in it now. But this is where you can have a primary weapon in as first and second. But the amount of times I just get killed, for me, I just focus on your primary weapon, like the shotguns, there's pistols. I don't think you need to waste perks to get a second weapon. You can do long range, short range, but for me, I really don't think you get the value out of that, because you lose too many bits elsewhere. This is good. You get 2 grenades, but again, if you're starting to put on the thing that comes back every 25 seconds, and for me, you get killed that often. That I was running this for a long time, so I had 2 flashes and I had 2 frag grenades, and it does help because you just lob them out and you do get kills, or you can stun them. And like I say, for the flash and the stun grenades, it's more you can throw them ahead of you to see if anyone's there. So not too bad, but for me, these 2 are the strongest. I like this one because I run and I'm always moving. But if you're going to be hunkering down a little bit more, then maybe this is the way to go for the gunfight. So you get those extra 3 shots, so you can get a little bit more stability onto the weapon you're firing. But that's the trade-off. So perk for me, purely again because in here I get these 2. So if I'm running around the map and I run over a proximity mine or a gas mine, or people are throwing grenades, I can kind of take a hit, but then I can run away. So this suits the way I play. So it might be a case of this works really well for you, but if it's a little bit slower, then it might be a case of you don't need these on. You put the extra attachments on your primary weapon. So the other thing, so MP5, I love this gun. I haven't tried all the submachine guns, so I can't speak for a lot of it. But the movement speed is amazing. I find the control fine. It has a decent iron sight, but it's the speed that comes with it. It's not necessarily the weapon. I find I can get away from people a lot quicker. It fires really fast, so while your accuracy will be down, as long as you get somewhere about the target, you're putting more bullets into other people than they can put into you. So it just ticks a lot of boxes across a lot of the variants of the maps. So the big ones. So I don't run an optic. Muzzles, I don't have one on. Again, if see, they come with a lot of negatives, so I don't really use these. So if I was, I'd probably go with something like this one, because the negatives aren't too bad. But where's my game? So the barrels are important. So bullet velocity is incredibly important in this game. It's not so much the power of them. Bullet velocity is the speed in which it comes from your gun to the enemy. So it's basically faster firing. So it seems like you're doing more damage, but that's what bullet velocity means. It's a case of if you fire to the time that it'll take to hit the enemy is a lot faster. So it's more rapid fire than bullet velocity. Because for me that was power, and I suppose it is because you're doing more damage. But that's how you've got to see that. Effective damage range is great. Now this is good in the sense that you get that 50% extra effective damage range on your SMG. So rather than it being all necessarily close range, you get that little bit extra. You still got the 75%. The starting ammo you can counter by putting a different magazine on, and you do lose a lot of vertical and horizontal. So if you were struggling with that, then again you could go back and, like I say, if you put the wildcard on that gives you the extra attachments, you can also counter some of them within putting a muzzle on or an underbarrel. This for me is absolutely the best for me. Like the reveal distance so far isn't the biggest game changer that I found, like over any attachment, and it probably isn't effective across every single map. But like, what happens is that if you see someone running, when they get into a certain range, it'll come up and it'll say their name. I think it's in red text when they get into a particular range. And what happens with this on, it happens 40% further away. So when you're there going, oh Jesus, where are they? I can't see anyone. You'll be able to see their name above their head. So whether they're in grass, you'll see the red bar. You might not see them, but you can see this red bar. So for me, this has really changed my game. I think this is the one thing out of everything that I would say try and play with this. But in Devil's Advocate, if you're playing in the way that's smaller in the rooms, again, you probably don't need this. So you've got to balance it out a little bit to how you play. This is just more the benefits that I found from playing, just so it helps you. But if you're going to move room to room and hold sections rather than try and charge around looking for people, then chances are you may not need this as much. But I would still try it, because for me, even if you're walking around the map from room to room, this gives you the biggest advantage in terms of it gives you the most notice that somebody is coming. So I would be using this one, under barrel. So like I said, if you're struggling with the recoil, I would put the wildcard on that gives you the extra perks. And there's a few in here. Where's the... is it that one? Yeah, so this one, like that gives you 6% vertical and 20%. You lose in shoot and movement speed, but you can also counter that later on. Like for me, that's rubbish. You get 3%, that's nothing on across everything. This one's good on its own, 15%, there's no negatives whatsoever, so that's one of the first ones you get. It doesn't mean that just because you haven't leveled the weapon up, you don't have the best pieces to make a build, because it's very rare that I would use the last ones. I use the first one here because it gives you ammo capacity, it gives you starting ammo, and the cons are only reload quickness, which is a bit of a balls, but compared with like these, so there's no ammo there. Like, I don't want to lose my aim down south because that's 20%, so that's the time it takes you to pull the left trigger and aim. So for me, it's not worth the trade-off. Again, you're losing reload speed and aim down sight there, so while the rest of the stats are up by 67, I don't know, it's hard to get that down, you know, getting really any... There's no ammo capacity with that one. And the aim down sight I just don't think is worth the trade-off. I can run this one and get all of them apart from reload quickness, and I think for what the trade-off there is, it's very difficult to beat this one. If you are missing a lot of shots, I'd probably run this one and then try and find aim down sight somewhere else, but again, it's the first one I use. There you go, so this serpent grip would counter all that anyway, so I have aim down sight there. I think there is a this one is also pretty good. I use this one a lot because you get the aim down sight, you get flinch resistance, so when you're firing or someone hits you, you still stay on target, so it's pretty good. Like, to be honest, I think this is just because it's in custom class. I would probably... Yeah, I'd probably stick this one on. The stock then, sprint fire, yeah. Getting the second one there, I like that one. But that's the SMG anyway. I have a Krieg on that one. I don't think I do. Or maybe I do. So I think the Krieg is good, particularly because the handling of it is decent, and it's the movement speed that I found tricky. The difference I have is I like to move pretty quickly, so this wouldn't have been as strong for me. But if you're not zooming around the map and then stopping and going again, then this has a better range than the MP5, and you're probably not going to be losing as much of a disadvantage of the movement speed. It doesn't fire as fast as the MP5, so 50-50s. But if you're going to hunker down in some rooms and hold sections, you probably gain that back by not meeting them in the middle of a street. Hopefully you'd be in a room where you're already pre-aiming. All the optics. So you get loads and loads and loads of optics. But like I said, just because you unlock some of them later doesn't make them better. Now, I never play with any zoom because I just can't get on with them. For me, I normally run this one on every weapon, and that is purely because it is the most simple. It doesn't take up much of the screen. It's got a nice open area. The frame of it is quite small, so it doesn't, when I'm actually walking and playing, it doesn't take up much of the screen like that. A lot of the other ones are really thick. Like that one has a lot going on. It's got those little twisty dials. The metal around it is quite thick, whereas this one is quite small, so I can see more of the screen. And then the rest of it is, like, again, bullet velocity is great, reveal distance, that kind of stuff. So right, I'm just going to start a game. So what do I, in fact, do you know which one I might do? So I find that this one gives the most opportunity to maybe show what I'm talking about. Hunkering down. Oh, I haven't changed my weapon class, but I'll talk through it anyway. So the reason I'm picking this to show is because there's a few routes that you know people. So out of all of the maps, it feels like this room upstairs, there is always traffic. You've always got a good vantage point without having to run around the map. There's corners that you can find that only have like certain vantage points. So there's no shame in finding a corner. Right, will I put on gas mine frag? Yeah, I'll use this one because it's only to play. So what I want to try and show you as well is just basic movement stuff to help. So what you want to do is reduce the amount of time that you need to move to lock onto a target. So just while this tank's rolling. Okay, so I'm probably going to get some silly deaths. So at the start, there is going to be nobody that meets me. So what I'm going to do is literally leg it around one side of the map as far as I can get, because they're going to go charging down the middle. Now I'm going to gamble that no one's here yet, but there could be because I've got this far.
We are taking control.
So here's the point: if I sit here and wait, there is a heavy chance someone will run in front of me. Now there's people shooting, so, but I haven't been killed. Now I can see on my mini-map there is now a pink dot. They're going to probably take care of it. So, something up. Oh. So, I've held this down now, and I'm going to move. And I can see all my blues are heading. So, the other room up here is this one. I see he's out the window. Oh, I've got no cover. Right, so now I've got this room to myself. I'm not going to sit in a corner, but I have to be careful. So I can look this way, I can look down here, they might come in this way. If I sit here and wait. So I've got my gas mine, I'm just going to stick that there so someone comes in here. And I'm just going to watch that mini-map. Now, like, if I sit here and somebody runs in here, I have the advantage. So I've just got to decide which way I think they might come in, so I can hear footsteps. Okay, now I've got a sentry turret, so I've got a gas mine one side, and I'm going to stick that there, just to cover stuff off. And I'm just going to hold again now, because I've already got a few, so I can see a pink ahead there, so I can take a look. Okay, and I'm not going to chase him now, because if I chase him, I'm going to lose my position in here. So I can still have footprints, it could be him. Okay. I can see pink dots. I don't want to risk too much, because if I stick my head out, I'm going to lose the whole point of being hunkered down in here. So there's no one, so I would predict someone will probably come. So I've got to decide. So I've got a sentry turret over here. They could come up here, and they might come across the bridge. But if they come across the bridge, I'm going to get an alert from this mine, and if my sentry turret fires, I'll hear it. So I'm going to stick another mine over here, so I have every way covered now. Now, in all fairness, these computer guys are rubbish, and they're not coming to rush me, so it would be different.
Napalm strike awaiting orders. Hostiles took out one of your gas mines.
Okay.
Scorcher optimal. Napalm inbound. Scorcher 4-2 exiting the AO. Stay safe.
Okay, so there's 3 over there, so there's no point in me trying to fight them at the minute, because there's too many of them. Now I can hear footprints, so... Okay, so I've held this now for a while, they know where I am. Oh, I can hear footsteps. Oh, it's my guys. So this is one room that's really good for that. Okay, and then there's the back left. So the other thing, when I'm walking, try and put your crosshair in where you think somebody might run in front of you. It's quite difficult to learn to do. But what you don't want to do is be running forward like this, because as soon as you see someone, then you've got to try and get on target, and you'll end up waving your crosshair everywhere. So like even here now, I want to be aiming at that doorway, because if he comes out here, I want to be ready, or over here. So this corner is most likely that they're going to run out, so I'm just going to aim. So I keep that crosshair, so if someone does run in front of me, I'm already ready to fire. Now this here is also a really good area to hold down, because you've got cover here to fire, and it's very easy to see this. If they run around that corner, you've still got time to decide whether I can duck down here or I can hold this way. So as long as you're keeping an eye on that map. But again, just try and keep your crosshair in a good space as you move in. So if you run like this and somebody runs out to the side, you've got to aim up at here, try and get on target, and by that time they'll have shot you. And it's those small things that make a huge difference. So I would be a bit screwed. So what I would do now is I'd sit here. There's no spy plane. If someone comes here, there's a good chance that I'd catch them. But I'll probably be like aiming about here, because there's still a chance that if they're going to run across here, they're going to run into my crosshair. But if I over here, I'd be waiting. So I can see him firing. So, and there was a pink dot. So because I was already pre-aiming when I jumped down there, I had the advantage. So it's almost like you're constantly aiming all the time. Now to be fair, this computer setting is really low, so nobody's moving.
Artillery inbound.
But even now, there's no harm in staying here just for a couple of seconds. There we go. Just like that. So I can see him here. No, I wasn't going to chase him, because that meant that I would have to run across the middle of the map to get to him. Okay, they're all on the right now, because I'm looking at the mini-map, because I'm not moving, I'm pretty safe here. And I think there's a blue scope,
Missile inbound.
so there's a chance. Okay.
Enemy counter spy plane inbound.
Okay, I can see gunfire. I don't know which way it's coming from. Okay, there's blue there, so it's probably... Okay. Now this is dangerous, because there's always people